Okay, imagine this for a second. What if you could practice something like open heart surgery? Or maybe navigate a massive citywide crisis? Or even fly a plane for the very first time, but with absolutely zero risk? Sounds like science fiction, right? Well, today we're going to dive into how AI is making that a reality. It's creating these incredibly realistic practice fields that are totally changing the game for how we master really high-stakes skills. I mean, just think about that feeling, that moment of pure pressure. You've read all the books, you know the theory, but now you have to apply it for real. You could be a doctor staring down a super rare diagnosis or a manager trying to fix a broken supply chain. That first real-world test, it feels like a total gamble. But what if it didn't have to be that way? And that's the promise of this new AI technology. It's all about replacing that roll of the dice with pure certainty. The idea is to build expertise not from one terrifying high-pressure moment, but from doing hundreds of practice runs in a totally safe, simulated world. So let's talk about the core problem here. We're calling it the high-stakes gamble. This is all about that pressure, that risk that comes with putting your knowledge to the test for the very first time when the consequences are very, very real. You know, traditional learning, it's great at giving us the theory, the what and the why, but it often doesn't really prepare us for the how, especially in a world that's constantly changing and throwing curveballs. That's the gap, right? Where theory smacks into reality, and suddenly the stakes are real. And this really gets to the heart of it. The whole challenge is bridging that massive gap between knowing something in your head and actually being able to do it when everything is on the line. We're talking about a huge break from how we've learned things in the past. You know, those passive methods. The days of just trying to soak up information from a textbook or a PowerPoint presentation, they're being replaced by something way more active and honestly way more effective. And this slide just lays it out so clearly, right? It's the old way versus the new way. We're moving on from just, passively memorizing stuff from textbooks. Instead, we're jumping into a new model that's all about being active, being practical, and really building genuine expertise by actually doing the thing. So, what's the solution? That's where these AI-powered practice fields come in. They are the big breakthrough. We're talking about these amazing virtual environments where you can train, you can mess up, you can learn, all without any real-world fallout. So let's be clear what we mean by an AI simulation here. It's a super realistic, interactive digital space. A lot of them are powered by generative AI, which means they can spit out endless versions of a scenario. And the whole point? It lets you practice these really complex skills again and again, where the only consequence of making a mistake is that you learn something important. And this quote just nails it. This isn't about studying for a test that's coming up. With these tools, you are actively doing the job. You're building that muscle memory, you're sharpening your gut feelings, long before you ever have to face the real deal. Exactly. This is the perfect way to think about it. You're not just a passenger watching someone else talk. You are in control. You're the one making the decisions. You see the results of those decisions, and you're the one steering your own learning. It's incredibly empowering. And look, this isn't some pie-in-the-sky idea for the future. This training revolution is already happening, right now. Let's take a look at how it's being used in some really critical fields today. The applications are just mind-blowing. In medicine, students can safely diagnose rare diseases, and surgeons can practice a complex procedure hundreds of times before ever touching a patient. In urban planning, AI lets us test a city's redesign and see its impact on traffic before laying a single brick. Emergency teams can navigate complex crisis scenarios, learning to coordinate under pressure. And in logistics, managers can stress test global supply chains against simulated disasters to find weaknesses before they break. And get this is happening right now. So what's the big picture takeaway from all this? Well, it means we are completely rethinking what it even means to be an expert. We're rethinking how we can achieve true mastery in pretty much any skill you can imagine. This right here is the absolute key. We are moving past an era where it's all about what you know in theory, and we're entering a new one that's defined by what you can actually do in practice. It's the ultimate shift from just knowing to truly doing. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, right? With this kind of technology, the barriers to mastering really complex skills are just disappearing. So if you had access to a perfect, totally risk-free simulation, what amazing skill would you want to master?